Part 1. The colony ship called Harmonious Dawn floated quietly through deep space. Inside the vessel, Commander Zilthara checked her displays for the third time that hour. Everything seemed normal, but something felt wrong. She could not explain it, but her instincts told her to be careful. Zilthara belonged to the Valari people. They were traders and explorers who had traveled the galaxy for many generations. The Valari were not fighters. Their bodies were thin and delicate compared to most other species. They built their ships for speed and cargo space, not for battle. Their weapons were small and meant only for the tiniest threats. The Harmonious Dawn carried 400 Valari civilians. Among them were 70 children, traveling with their families to a new colony world. The ship moved slowly through the Kepler sector, a region of space known for its trade routes and relative safety. At least it was supposed to be safe. The warning alarm started without notice. Red lights flashed across every control panel. Zilthara jumped from her seat and stared at the main screen. Her heart sank when she saw what appeared on the display. 5 warships emerged from the darkness of space. They were crater vessels, and everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. The Crator were raiders and slavers who preyed on weak ships. They took prisoners to sell as workers and stripped cargo from any vessel they caught. They showed no mercy to anyone. "Shields up," Zilthara shouted to her crew. "Send a distress signal immediately. Use Confederation emergency channels." Her communications officer worked quickly at his station. His 3 fingers moved across the controls, setting up the emergency broadcast. "Commander, I am sending the signal now. It will reach the Lixian Defense Fleet in approximately 2 hours. They should arrive within 2 days if they respond at maximum speed." 2 days. Zilthara knew they did not have 2 days. They did not even have 2 hours. The Crator ships were already moving into attack formation. Their dark hulls looked like hungry predators circling wounded prey. The first plasma blast hit the Harmonious Dawn on the port side. The ship shook violently, throwing several crew members to the floor. Alarms screamed even louder as damage reports flooded in from all sections. "Hull breach on Deck 7, someone called out. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Another blast struck the ship. Then another. The Crator were not trying to destroy them quickly. They wanted to disable the vessel slowly, breaking down its defenses until boarding became easy. Zilthara had heard the stories about what happened to those who were captured by Crator raiders. Death would be a kinder fate. "Return fire," she ordered, even though she knew it would do little good. The Harmonious Dawn fired its small defense lasers. The beams struck the Crator shields and dispersed harmlessly. The enemy ships did not even slow down. They continued their systematic attack, targeting the colony ship's engines and shield generators. Far across the sector, a different ship received the distress signal. The UNS Valiant was a human warship, one of the newer vessels Earth had built after joining the galactic community. The ship was patrolling the sector when the Valari message came through. Captain Jacob Warren stood on the bridge of the Valiant. He was a tall man with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had spent 20 years in Earth's military before humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. Now he commanded one of the first human ships to explore deep space. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. She was young but capable, with bright red hair tied back in a regulation bun. "It is coming from a Valari colony ship approximately 40 minutes away at maximum speed." Jacob moved to look at the display. He read the message quickly, noting the details. "Who is the message addressed to?" Amy checked her screens again. "The Lixian Defense Fleet, sir. The message is using Confederation protocols, but it is not meant for us." Jacob studied the tactical information. 5 Crator raiders against 1 colony ship. The odds were terrible. The Valari had no chance of survival if they fought alone. The Lixian fleet was the official protector for this region of space, but they were too far away to help in time. Commander Kyle Peterson spoke up from the tactical station. He was a stocky man with dark skin and steady hands. "Sir, if we are reading this correctly, that colony ship has maybe 30 minutes before its shields fail completely. After that, the Crator will board and take everyone prisoner." Jacob knew the rules. Confederation protocol was very clear about distress calls. Ships were supposed to respond only to messages directed at their own fleet. Humanity had joined the Confederation only 3 years ago, and many species still did not trust humans. Earth had a violent history, and most aliens preferred to keep their distance from the newcomers. But Jacob also knew right from wrong. 400 civilians were about to die or be enslaved, while his ship sat nearby doing nothing. That did not sit well with him. "Lieutenant Collins, what is our current mission status?" Jacob asked. "We are on routine patrol, sir. No urgent assignments or scheduled meetings." Jacob made his decision. "Helm, set course for the Valari ship. Maximum acceleration. I want to get there as fast as possible." The officer at the helm station hesitated. "Sir, that will put us at nearly 8 gravities of acceleration. Most species cannot handle that kind of force." "Good thing we are human, then," Jacob said with a slight smile. "Engage!" The Valiant's engines roared to life with tremendous power. The ship jumped forward, accelerating at speeds that would crush most alien bodies. Humans had evolved on Earth, a heavy world with strong gravity. Their bodies could handle forces that would kill others. It was one of the reasons other species called them Deathworlders. Amy looked worried. "Captain, we were not called for assistance. This could create problems with Confederation Command." Jacob understood her concern. He was about to violate protocol and possibly cause a diplomatic incident. But when he weighed that against allowing hundreds of innocents to be captured by slavers, the choice seemed obvious. "I will handle any problems with command later," Jacob said firmly. "Right now those people need help, and we are the only ones close enough to provide it." "Tactical, bring all weapons online. Marines, prepare for possible boarding actions." Kyle worked his controls quickly. "All railguns are charging, sir. Missile tubes are loaded and ready. Point defense systems are active." "Good," Jacob replied. "Amy, as soon as we are in range, open a channel to the Valari ship. Let them know help is coming." The Valiant raced through space toward the battle. On Earth, humans had a saying about how the only thing needed for evil to win was for good people to do nothing. Jacob had no intention of doing nothing. Part 1, the colony ship called Harmonious Dawn floated quietly through deep space. Inside the vessel, Commander Zilthara checked her displays for the 3rd time that hour. Everything seemed normal, but something felt wrong. She could not explain it, but her instincts told her to be careful. Zilthara belonged to the Valari people. They were traders and explorers who had traveled the galaxy for many generations. The Valari were not fighters. Their bodies were thin and delicate compared to most other species. They built their ships for speed and cargo space, not for battle. Their weapons were small and meant only for the tiniest threats. The Harmonious Dawn carried 400 Valari civilians. Among them were 70 children, traveling with their families to a new colony world. The ship moved slowly through the Kepler sector, a region of space known for its trade routes and relative safety. At least it was supposed to be safe. The warning alarms started without notice. Red lights flashed across every control panel. Zilthara jumped from her seat and stared at the main screen. Her heart sank when she saw what appeared on the display. 5 warships emerged from the darkness of space. They were Crador vessels, and everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. The Crador were raiders and slavers who preyed on weak ships. They took prisoners to sell as workers and stripped cargo from any vessel they caught. They showed no mercy to anyone. "Shields up," Zilthara shouted to her crew. "Send a distress signal immediately. Use Confederation emergency channels." Her communications officer worked quickly at his station. His 3 fingers moved across the controls, setting up the emergency broadcast. "Commander, I am sending the signal now. It will reach the Lixian Defense Fleet in approximately 2 hours. They should arrive within 2 days if they respond at maximum speed." 2 days. Zilthara knew they did not have 2 days. They did not even have 2 hours. The Crador ships were already moving into attack formation. Their dark hulls looked like hungry predators circling wounded prey. The first plasma blast hit the Harmonious Dawn on the port side. The ship shook violently, throwing several crew members to the floor. Alarms screamed even louder as damage reports flooded in from all sections. "Hull breach on Deck 7, someone called out. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Another blast struck the ship. Then another. The Crador were not trying to destroy them quickly. They wanted to disable the vessel slowly, breaking down its defenses until boarding became easy. Zilthara had heard the stories about what happened to those who were captured by Crador raiders. Death would be a kinder fate. "Return fire," she ordered, even though she knew it would do little good. The Harmonious Dawn fired its small defense lasers. The beams struck the crater shields and dispersed harmlessly. The enemy ships did not even slow down. They continued their systematic attack, targeting the colony ship's engines and shield generators. Far across the sector, A different ship received the distress signal. The UNS Valiant was a human warship, one of the newer vessels Earth had built after joining the galactic community. The ship was patrolling the sector when the Valari message came through. Captain Jacob Warren stood on the bridge of the Valiant. He was a tall man with short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had spent 20 years in Earth's military before humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. Now he commanded one of the first human ships to explore deep space. "Captain, we are receiving a distress call," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station. She was young but capable, with bright red hair tied back in a regulation bun. "It is coming from a Valari colony ship approximately 40 minutes away at maximum speed." Jacob moved to look at the display. He read the message quickly, noting the details. "Who is the message addressed to?" Amy checked her screens again. "The Lixian Defense Fleet, sir. The message is using Confederation protocols, but it is not meant for us." Jacob studied the tactical information. 5 Krator raiders against 1 colony ship. The odds were terrible. The Valari had no chance of survival if they fought alone. The Lixian fleet was the official protector for this region of space, but they were too far away to help in time. Commander Kyle Peterson spoke up from the tactical station. He was a stocky man with dark skin and steady hands. "Sir, if we are reading this correctly, that colony ship has maybe 30 minutes before its shields fail completely. After that, the Krator will board and take everyone prisoner." Jacob knew the rules. Confederation protocol was very clear about distress calls. Ships were supposed to respond only to messages directed at their own fleet. Humanity had joined the Confederation only 3 years ago, and many species still did not trust humans. Earth had a violent history, and most aliens preferred to keep their distance from the newcomers. But Jacob also knew right from wrong. 400 civilians were about to die or be enslaved, while his ship sat nearby doing nothing. That did not sit well with him. "Lieutenant Collins, what is our current mission status?" Jacob asked. "We are on routine patrol, sir. No urgent assignments or scheduled meetings." Jacob made his decision. "Helm set course for the Valari ship. Maximum acceleration. I want to get there as fast as possible." The officer at the helm station hesitated. "Sir, that will put us at nearly 8 gravities of acceleration. Most species cannot handle that kind of force." "Good thing we are human, then," Jacob said with a slight smile. "Engage." The Valiant's engines roared to life with tremendous power. The ship jumped forward, accelerating at speeds that would crush most alien bodies. Humans had evolved on Earth, a heavy world with strong gravity. Their bodies could handle forces that would kill others. It was one of the reasons other species called them Deathworlders. Amy looked worried. "Captain, we were not called for assistance. This could create problems with Confederation Command." Jacob understood her concern. He was about to violate protocol and possibly cause a diplomatic incident. But when he weighed that against allowing hundreds of innocents to be captured by slavers, the choice seemed obvious. "I will handle any problems with command later," Jacob said firmly. "Right now those people need help and we are the only ones close enough to provide it. Tactical, bring all weapons online. Marines, prepare for possible boarding actions." Kyle worked his controls quickly. "All railguns are charging, sir." "Missile tubes are loaded and ready. Point defense systems are active." "Good," Jacob replied. "Amy, as soon as we are in range, open a channel to the Valari ship. Let them know help is coming." The Valiant raced through space toward the battle. On Earth, humans had a saying about how the only thing needed for evil to win was for good people to do nothing. Jacob had no intention of doing nothing. Part 3 War Leader Thurok stared at his displays in disbelief. One of his ships was gone, destroyed by a single human cruiser. This should not be possible. The Krator were experienced raiders with powerful weapons, yet these primitive Deathworlders were fighting like demons. "All ships converge on the human vessel," Thurok commanded through gritted teeth. "Focus all fire on that one ship. Overwhelm their defenses." The 4 remaining Krator raiders changed formation. They moved to surround the Valiant, creating a deadly crossfire pattern. Plasma cannons from multiple directions all fired at once, filling space with green bolts of superheated energy. The Valiant's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the incoming damage. Warning alarms sounded across the human bridge as shield strength began dropping rapidly. "Shields down to 60%, Kyle called out. His voice remained steady despite the chaos around them. "We are taking hits from multiple angles. I recommend we break off and regroup." Jacob gripped his command chair as another volley struck the ship. The Valiant shook violently and he could hear the structural stress in the hull. Negative. We break off, and those raiders go back to attacking the colony ship. Maintain fire and keep us moving. Greg pushed the ship through a series of barrel rolls and sudden direction changes. The Valiant twisted and turned in patterns that made no sense to traditional naval tactics. But Greg was not flying by tactics books. He was flying by instinct and skill honed from years of experience. More plasma bolts streaked past the ship, missing by increasingly smaller margins. Some found their target. The shields absorbed what they could, but eventually, raw energy began getting through to the hull. Hull breach on Deck 4. Someone reported. Emergency bulkheads are sealing the section. Shield strength at 30%, Kyle added. Captain, we cannot take much more of this. Jacob knew Kyle was right. 4 against 1 was terrible odds, even for a human ship. But he had accomplished part of his mission. The Valari colony ship was no longer under attack. The Crator had shifted all their attention to the Valiant. Amy, open a channel to the Crator flagship, Jacob ordered. A moment later, Thurok's scarred face appeared on the main screen. The Crator war leader looked triumphant. His 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. You fought better than expected for primitives, human, Thurok said with a harsh laugh. But now your ship is dying. Surrender and I will make your deaths quick. Refuse and I will take you all as slaves. Jacob looked directly at the Crator leader and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a predator gave before striking. War leader, I actually called to offer you the chance to surrender. You have 10 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Thurok laughed again, louder this time. You are damaged and outnumbered 4-1. What makes you think I would surrender to you? Jacob's smile widened slightly. Because while you were focused on shooting at my ship, you failed to notice the other 3 human warships that just arrived in the sector. They are currently behind you with all weapons locked onto your fleet. The color drained from Thurok's face. He spun toward his sensor station. What is he talking about? Scan the area immediately. The Crator sensor officer worked frantically at his controls. After a moment, his voice came out in a horrified whisper. War leader, there are 3 more human vessels in the sector. A battle cruiser, a destroyer, and another heavy cruiser. They appeared from faster-than-light travel while we were engaged. All of them have weapons powered and targeting us. Thurok felt ice run through his veins. He had been so focused on destroying the first human ship that he had ignored sensor warnings about new contacts. It was a fatal mistake. A new voice came over the communication channel. This one belonged to a human female with short blonde hair and cold gray eyes. Crator vessels, this is Captain Lisa Morgan of the UNS Defiant. You are completely surrounded and badly outgunned. Power down your weapons immediately and prepare to surrender. You have 30 seconds to comply or we will open fire. Aboard the Harmonious Dawn, Zilthara watched 3 new ships appear on her sensors. They were all human vessels and they had the Crator fleet trapped in a perfect formation. The raiders could not escape without being destroyed. The Crator are powering down their weapons, her sensor operator said with wonder in his voice. All 4 remaining ships are standing down. They are surrendering. Zilthara could barely process what had happened. Minutes ago, she had been preparing to die or be enslaved. Now the Crator raiders were defeated and her ship was safe. All because of the humans. Jacob's face appeared on her screen again. Commander Zilthara, this is Captain Warren. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are sending repair teams and medical personnel to assist your vessel. How many wounded do you have? Zilthara found her voice, though it shook slightly when she spoke. Captain Warren, we have approximately 60 wounded crew and passengers. Some of them are in critical condition. But I must ask, why did you come? Our distress call was not meant for human ships. You had no obligation to help us. Jacob's stern expression softened a bit. Commander, where I come from, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. You needed help. We were close enough to provide it. Everything else is just politics, and politicians can sort that out later. Within the next hour, human Marines boarded the Crator vessels and placed their crews under arrest. The raiders were secured in holding cells on the human ships to await transfer to Confederation authorities. Human engineering teams also boarded the Harmonious Dawn to help with repairs. Zilthara watched with fascination as the humans worked. They were incredibly strong compared to Valari, able to carry heavy equipment easily and work for hours without rest. But they were also surprisingly gentle when needed, carefully handling delicate Valari technology. Commander Patricia Hughes led the medical team that came aboard. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying brown hair. She moved through the damaged sections of the colony ship with efficiency and compassion. "We have portable medical equipment and supplies," Patricia told Zilthara. "My team has experience treating various species. We will do everything we can for your wounded." The human medical personnel set up emergency treatment areas in the ship's cargo bay. Zilthara watched as they worked on injured Valari with careful precision. The humans used techniques and equipment she had never seen before. Some of their methods seemed aggressive by Confederation medical standards, but they were clearly effective. One young Valari child had been badly hurt when a support beam fell during the attack. The local medics had stabilized him but said his injuries were too severe for their equipment to treat properly. Patricia examined the child quickly and then got to work. "His internal organs are damaged, but we can fix this," Patricia said to her team. "Prepare the nanite injection. We need to repair the tissue damage before it becomes permanent." Zilthara watched as the human doctor injected tiny medical robots into the child's bloodstream. The nanites would repair damage from the inside at a cellular level. It was technology that most Confederation species considered too risky to use. But Patricia worked with confidence born from experience. 2 hours later, the child was stable and recovering. Patricia moved on to the next patient without pause, working through the wounded one by one. Captain Lisa Morgan of the Defiant contacted Jacob via secure channel. Her image appeared on a small screen in Jacob's ready room. "Nice work buying time out there, Jacob. Though I suspect Confederation Command is going to have some questions about why you engaged without authorization." Jacob shrugged. "Let them ask their questions. I would make the same decision again if I had to." Lisa smiled slightly. "I know you would. That is exactly why you are out here on the frontier, instead of flying a desk at headquarters. The Confederation is already sending a delegation to investigate what happened. This is going to create political waves." "Then let it create waves," Jacob replied. "Maybe it is time the galaxy learned that humanity does not abandon people who need help, regardless of what some protocol book says." 3 days passed before the Confederation delegation arrived. They came aboard a large diplomatic vessel called the Luminous Purpose. The ship was beautiful, decorated with elegant designs and soft lighting. It was very different from the practical military vessels that humans built. The delegation was led by Ambassador Kethavan, a member of the Lixian species. The Lixians were one of the oldest and most respected civilizations in the Confederation. They had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years, long before humans even discovered fire. Kethavan was tall and thin with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. His people were known for their wisdom and careful deliberation. They valued tradition and protocol above almost everything else. Kethavan himself had spoken against allowing humans to join the Confederation. He believed humans were too violent and unpredictable to be trusted. The formal meeting took place aboard the Harmonious Dawn, which was now safely docked at a nearby Confederation station. The conference room was filled with delegates from various species. Commander Zilthara sat at one end of the table. Jacob and Lisa sat on the opposite side in their dress uniforms. Ambassador Kethavan's crystalline features showed clear disapproval as he addressed the human captains. "While we appreciate that lives were saved, Captain Warren, you violated established protocols. The distress call was specifically directed to the Lixian Defense Fleet. You had no legal authority to engage those Krator raiders." Jacob sat straight in his chair. He spoke calmly and clearly. "With respect, Ambassador, I had complete authority under Confederation law. Article 7, Section 3 of the Confederation Charter states that any member species encountering sentient beings in immediate mortal danger has a duty to render aid if they are capable of doing so." Kethavan's color shifted slightly, which indicated irritation in Lixian body language. "That article refers to ships that are already present when a distress situation begins. You diverted from your assigned patrol route to respond to a call not meant for you." Lisa spoke up, her voice polite but firm. "Ambassador, the article does not specify any distance limitations. It also does not say we should ignore people who are dying just because they did not specifically ask us for help." Another delegate leaned forward. This was Counselor Vex, a member of the logical Tharii species. Her skin was deep purple and her large eyes studied everything carefully. "The humans make a fair point about the legal interpretation. However, we must consider the precedent this sets. If every species begins responding to distress calls not intended for them, we could have serious problems. Ships might rush into situations they are not equipped to handle. We could have conflicts over jurisdiction and authority. Before anyone could respond, Commander Zilthara stood up. Her voice was quiet but filled with emotion. "Ambassador Kethvin, if I may speak." Kethvin nodded graciously. "Of course, Commander. You have every right to address this council." Zilthara took a deep breath before speaking. "My people, the Valari, have been part of the Confederation for 200 years. In all that time, we have followed every protocol. We have respected every regulation. We have trusted in the mutual defense agreements that bind our alliance together." She paused, looking around the room at all the delegates. "When the Krator attacked my ship, I did exactly what protocol required. I sent our distress call to the Lixian fleet, our designated protectors for this sector of space. I trusted that help would come in time." Her voice grew stronger as she continued, but help was not coming in time. The Lixian fleet was 2 days away. My crew, my passengers, 70 children, we would all have been dead or enslaved long before any authorized ships arrived. Your precious protocols would have gotten us all killed. Zilthara turned to face Jacob directly. "Captain Warren did not follow protocol. That is true, but he followed something far more important. He followed compassion. He followed honor. He risked his ship and his crew for complete strangers who had not even asked for his help. Is that the action of a dangerous species? Or is that the action of heroes?" The conference room fell completely silent. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Kethvin's crystalline skin changed to a different color, one that indicated deep thought. Patricia Hughes, who had been invited to the meeting as a witness, raised her hand. "May I address the Council's concerns, Ambassador?" Kethvin nodded. "Please proceed, Commander Hughes." Patricia stood up, her medical uniform crisp and clean. "I have spent the last 3 days treating wounded Valari. Many of them had injuries that would have been fatal within hours if left untreated. Our medical technology is different from standard Confederation practices. Some of our procedures would be considered too aggressive or risky by your medical standards." She looked directly at Counselor Vex. "But those aggressive treatments saved 43 lives that would have been lost waiting for properly authorized medical teams to arrive. You talk about protocols and precedents, and I understand those things have their place. But every minute you spend debating jurisdiction is a minute that someone could be dying." Patricia's voice grew more passionate. "Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We had to make quick decisions or we died. We had to act fast or we starved. We had to help each other or we went extinct. That instinct to act, to help others, to fight when necessary, that is not a flaw in our species. That is the reason we survived long enough to reach the stars." More silence filled the room. Then Counselor Vex spoke again, her logical mind processing what she had heard. "Commander Hughes raises an important point. We have been debating the legal aspects of this situation, but we have not addressed the practical reality. If the humans had not intervened, 400 Valari would be dead or enslaved right now. That is an undeniable fact." Another delegate spoke up. This was Representative Morath from the peaceful Hennet species. "I have reviewed the tactical data from the engagement. The human response was not reckless or foolish. They assessed the situation, called for reinforcements, and executed a well-planned rescue operation. They showed both courage and intelligence." The debate continued for several more hours. More delegates spoke, offering different perspectives and opinions. But slowly the tone of the discussion began to shift. The focus moved away from whether the humans had violated protocol and toward whether the protocols themselves were adequate. Finally, Counselor Vex made a critical observation. "We have discovered something troubling in our investigation. The Krator prisoners have revealed that they specifically chose the Valari colony ship because they knew the nearest Confederation response was days away. They had been tracking our defense fleet positions and deliberately exploiting the gaps in our coverage." This revelation shocked many of the delegates. Kethvin's color changed again, this time to one indicating concern. "Are you saying this was not an isolated incident?" Vex shook her head. "According to the prisoner interrogations, raider groups have been using this tactic for years. They monitor our patrol routes and response times, then attack targets in areas where help will arrive too late. We estimate dozens of ships and stations have been lost this way." The conference room erupted in shocked conversation. If raiders were actively exploiting their defense protocols, then the entire Confederation security system had a fundamental flaw. Kethvin called for order and the room gradually quieted down. The ambassador looked troubled, his crystalline features reflecting the dim lighting. This changes the nature of our discussion significantly. If our current system is predictable enough for criminals to exploit, then we must acknowledge that change is necessary. Jacob saw an opportunity and took it. Ambassador, if I may make a suggestion? Kethvin gestured for him to continue. What if we established a rapid response system? Jacob proposed. Human ships are fast, and our crews can handle high-gravity maneuvers that most species cannot endure. We could position vessels at strategic locations to cover the gaps in Confederation fleet response times. Lisa added to the proposal. We would not be replacing your existing defense forces. Think of us as emergency responders like firefighters or paramedics back on Earth. We arrive first, stabilize the situation, and hand things over to the proper authorities when they arrive. The proposal created immediate discussion among the delegates. Some were enthusiastic about the idea, while others expressed concerns. The debate went on for hours as different species offered their perspectives and questions. Counselor Vex was the first to express support. From a logical standpoint, the human proposal has merit. They have already demonstrated the capability to respond quickly and effectively. Creating a formalized system would simply make official what they have already proven they can do. Representative Morath agreed. My people value peace above all things. We do not have the military strength to protect ourselves adequately. Having rapid response teams available could save many lives, not just Valari lives, but lives across the entire Confederation. But not everyone was convinced. A delegate from the Corvan Empire stood up. The Corvans were a proud warrior species who valued strength and tradition. I question whether we should place so much trust in humans. They are newcomers to galactic society. We know very little about their true intentions or long-term goals. Jacob remained calm in the face of this challenge. I understand your concerns, Delegate. Humans are new to the Confederation, and we have much to prove. But consider what we have already shown you. We risked our ships and crews to save people we had never met. We asked for nothing in return. We simply did what we believed was right. Lisa stood and addressed the Corvan delegate directly. If you have doubts about human intentions, then place observers on our ships. Monitor our operations. Set strict guidelines for when and how we can respond. We are not asking for unlimited authority. We are offering to help fill a dangerous gap in your defense network. Kethvin listened carefully to all the arguments. His crystalline features shifted through various colors as he processed the information. Finally, he spoke in a thoughtful tone. I must confess that my initial opposition to this idea was based partly on my own prejudices about humans. I have viewed them as dangerous and unpredictable. But perhaps I was focusing on the wrong aspects of their nature. He looked at Jacob and Lisa. Yes, humans are dangerous. Yes, they are capable of great violence. But they are also capable of great compassion and self-sacrifice. Perhaps what the Confederation needs is not less danger, but danger pointed in the right direction. Zilthara spoke again, adding her support. I was terrified when I first saw Captain Warren's face on my screen. He looked like a predator, and every instinct told me to fear him. But then he spoke words of reassurance and hope. He proved that being dangerous and being good are not opposite things. Sometimes the galaxy needs both. The debate continued over the next several days. Details had to be worked out, concerns had to be addressed, and protocols had to be established. But slowly a framework began to take shape. The Human Rapid Response Initiative would place human vessels at strategic points throughout Confederation space. These ships would be authorized to respond to any distress call within their range, regardless of which species had sent the original message. The program would include strict oversight and regular reviews to ensure it was being used appropriately. Other Confederation species would be invited to participate if they wished. Any species that could meet the physical and technical requirements could join the rapid response teams. But everyone acknowledged that the program would be primarily run by humans, at least in the beginning. Captain Jacob Warren was promoted to Commodore and given command of the initiative's first squadron. It was a significant responsibility, and he accepted it with the same calm determination he had shown during the rescue. Lisa Morgan became his second in command, overseeing all tactical operations. She would be responsible for training new crews and developing response protocols that could be used across different situations. Patricia Hughes was appointed as Chief Medical Coordinator. Her job was to develop medical response procedures that combined human techniques with Confederation medical knowledge. She would also train other species in emergency medical care that could save lives in the critical first minutes of a crisis. The news spread quickly through Confederation space. Reactions were mixed. Some species welcomed the idea of having rapid response teams available. Others remained skeptical about giving humans such a prominent role. But within 6 months, the results spoke for themselves. The Human Rapid Response Initiative responded to 37 emergencies across 4 different sectors. They rescued ships under attack, evacuated stations threatened by spatial anomalies, provided disaster relief to colonies hit by natural catastrophes, and intercepted raider groups before they could strike. Each successful mission changed more minds. Species that had been wary of humans began to see them differently. Yes, humans were still dangerous. Yes, they still came from a death world and possessed a capacity for violence that made many aliens nervous. But they were also the ones who showed up when everything was going wrong. One particular mission became famous throughout the Confederation. A research station studying a dangerous nebula had suffered a catastrophic systems failure. Their life support was failing, and they had less than 2 hours of breathable air remaining. The nearest Confederation ship was 4 hours away. The Human Rapid Response ship UNS Guardian, commanded by Captain Helen Carter, arrived in 35 minutes. The crew performed an emergency evacuation under incredibly difficult conditions. The nebula's radiation was interfering with their systems, and they had to work fast. Helen personally led a team into the damaged station wearing protective suits. They moved through corridors filled with toxic gases and unstable structures. They found all 47 researchers and got them to safety with only minutes to spare. The rescued researchers were from 6 different species. None of them had ever met a human before. All of them owed their lives to human courage and determination. Stories like this happened again and again. Slowly but surely, the galaxy's perception of humanity began to change. People started to understand that the same traits that made humans dangerous also made them exceptional protectors. The species that had evolved to survive on a death world brought those survival skills to the stars. Their ability to endure pain, to push through exhaustion, to never give up even in hopeless situations. All of these things made them ideal for emergency response. More species began requesting human assistance for various crises. Some even asked for human advisors to help train their own emergency response teams. The Human Rapid Response Initiative expanded, adding more ships and crews to meet the growing demand. Other species also began joining the program. The Hennet, despite being a peaceful species, proved excellent at coordination and communication during emergencies. The Dracor, a species with natural resistance to extreme temperatures, worked well alongside humans in hostile environments. But at the heart of every response team, there were always humans. They were the ones who ran into danger while others ran away. They were the ones who refused to give up when situations seemed hopeless. They were the ones who proved that being from a death world meant something more than just being dangerous. Ambassador Kethvin privately admitted to Jacob during a diplomatic function that he had been wrong about humans. "I judged your species based on fear and prejudice," the Lixian ambassador said. "I saw only the danger and not the potential for good. You have taught me an important lesson about looking beyond surface appearances." Jacob accepted the apology with grace. "Ambassador, humans have had to learn that same lesson many times in our own history. We have often feared those who were different from us. Sometimes that fear was justified, but more often it was based on ignorance. The galaxy is teaching us to look past our own prejudices, just as we are teaching others to look past theirs." 1 year after the Harmonious Dawn incident, a special ceremony took place on the Confederation homeworld. The Grand Council chamber was filled with delegates from hundreds of species. They had gathered to formally recognize the Human Rapid Response Initiative and its contributions to galactic safety. Commodore Jacob Warren stood before the assembly in his dress uniform. Beside him were Lisa Morgan, Patricia Hughes, and representatives from the various species who had joined the Rapid Response Program. They had all been invited to receive commendations for their service. The ceremony was impressive, filled with formal speeches and traditional protocols. But Jacob found his mind wandering to more practical matters. Even as they celebrated past successes, he knew there were ships out there patrolling the space lanes, ready to respond to the next emergency. After the ceremony ended, Jacob had a chance to speak privately with Commander Zilthara. She had traveled all the way from Valari space to attend the event. Her people had become strong supporters of the Rapid Response Initiative. "It is good to see you again, Commander," Jacob said warmly. "How is your ship?" "Last I heard, the repairs were completed months ago." Silthara smiled, which was a complex expression for Valari involving movements of her facial membranes. "The Harmonious Dawn is fully operational again. We completed our journey to the colony world successfully. Those 70 children I told you about are now settling into their new homes, alive because of what you and your crew did." She paused, her large eyes studying Jacob's face. "I wanted to thank you personally, not just for saving our lives, but for changing how my people view humanity. Before the attack, most Valari avoided humans out of fear. Now we seek them out as friends and allies." Jacob felt humbled by her words. "We only did what anyone should do in that situation. You do not need to thank us for basic decency." "But that is exactly why thanks are necessary," Silthara replied. "Basic decency is not as common as it should be, especially in the vastness of space. What you call basic, others call heroic. The difference matters." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Ambassador Kethvin. The Lixian diplomat had undergone a remarkable transformation in his attitude toward humans over the past year. He had become one of the strongest advocates for expanding the Rapid Response Program. "Commodore Warren, might I have a word?" Kethvin asked politely. "Of course, Ambassador," Jacob replied. Kethvin gestured for them to step away from the crowded reception area. When they had relative privacy, he spoke in a serious tone. "I wanted to inform you of a new development before it becomes public knowledge. The Confederation Council has voted to make the Human Rapid Response Initiative a permanent part of our defense structure." Jacob felt a mix of satisfaction and concern. "That is excellent news, Ambassador. But I sense there is more to this announcement." Kethvin's crystalline features reflected the light as he nodded. "You are perceptive. The Council is also proposing a significant expansion of the program. They want to increase the number of rapid response ships from 12 to 50 within the next 2 years. They are also requesting that humans take a larger role in training Confederation military forces in emergency response tactics." "That is a substantial expansion," Jacob said carefully. "It will require significant resources and personnel. Earth's space navy is still relatively small compared to established powers." "The Council understands this," Kethvin assured him. "They are prepared to provide funding and support for building new ships. Several species have also offered to contribute vessels and crews to the program. What they need from humanity is leadership and expertise." Jacob considered the implications. Expanding the program meant more lives saved, but it also meant more responsibility for humanity. They would be taking on a prominent role in galactic affairs much faster than anyone had anticipated. "I will need to discuss this with my government," Jacob said. "But personally, I support the expansion. There are too many gaps in the current coverage. More ships means faster response times and more people saved." Kethvin smiled, which was unusual for the normally reserved Lixian. "I hoped you would say that. Your superiors on Earth have already been contacted and have given preliminary approval. They trust your judgment on operational matters." Over the following months, the expansion began in earnest. New ships were built, combining human engineering with Confederation technology. The result was vessels that were faster and more capable than anything that had come before. Training facilities were established on multiple worlds. Human instructors taught emergency response procedures to crews from dozens of species. The training was intense and demanding, designed to prepare people for the chaos and danger of real emergencies. Not every species could meet the physical requirements. The high-gravity maneuvers that humans considered normal were impossible for many aliens. But those who could handle the stress became elite emergency responders, respected throughout the Confederation. Patricia Hughes oversaw the expansion of medical response capabilities. She worked with doctors and healers from various species to create comprehensive medical protocols. The goal was to ensure that anyone injured in an emergency could receive appropriate care regardless of their biology. Her efforts paid off dramatically during a crisis on a mixed-species colony world. An industrial accident released toxic chemicals into the atmosphere, affecting thousands of people from 7 different species. The rapid response medical teams arrived within an hour and set up emergency treatment centers. Patricia coordinated the medical response personally, managing teams that included human doctors, Valari healers, Thari surgeons, and others. They worked together seamlessly, sharing knowledge and techniques. The cooperative effort saved over 2,000 lives that would have been lost with traditional response methods. Lisa Morgan focused on tactical training, teaching other species how to assess threats and respond effectively. She discovered that many Confederation species had never developed proper emergency combat tactics because they had never needed them. Their worlds were peaceful, and their histories lacked the constant warfare that had shaped human military thinking. But now they needed those skills. Raiders and pirates were becoming bolder, attacking targets they would have avoided in the past. Having rapid response teams that could fight as well as rescue became increasingly important. One of Lisa's best students was a young Dracor officer named Sergeant Kren. The Dracor were a heavy-world species like humans, though not quite as adaptable. Kren showed exceptional talent for tactical thinking and leadership. "You have good instincts," Lisa told him after a particularly successful training exercise. "You anticipated the enemy's movements and positioned your team perfectly." Kren's scaled face showed pleasure at the compliment. "I learned from watching human tactical recordings, Captain. Your species has a saying that I find very wise. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." Lisa smiled at the slight mangling of the quote but appreciated the sentiment. "That is close enough, Sergeant. The point is that being prepared for violence does not mean seeking it out. It means being ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves." As the program expanded, success stories multiplied. A human ship rescued a Lixian science vessel trapped in a gravity well. A mixed crew of humans and Hennet evacuated a station before its orbit decayed. A rapid response team stopped a pirate attack on a refugee convoy, saving hundreds of families fleeing a war zone. Each mission proved the value of the initiative. But more importantly, each mission brought different species together working toward common goals. Humans worked alongside aliens they had never met before. They shared meals, told stories, and formed friendships that crossed the boundaries of biology and culture. The rapid response ships became known throughout the Confederation as symbols of hope. When disaster struck, when danger threatened, when all seemed lost, people knew that help was coming. Somewhere out there, a rapid response ship was already accelerating toward them at speeds that defied safety regulations, crewed by people who had decided that saving lives mattered more than following rules. Jacob Warren watched the program grow with quiet satisfaction. He had been promoted again, now serving as admiral in command of all rapid response operations. It was a desk job for the most part, but he still took command of missions when circumstances required it. On the anniversary of the Harmonious Dawn rescue, Zilthara returned to visit. She had a special request. Her government wanted to commission a memorial to honor the humans who had saved her ship. They wanted Jacob to attend the dedication ceremony. Jacob agreed, and a month later he found himself on the Valari homeworld. It was a beautiful planet with gentle gravity and peaceful landscapes. Everything about it was soft and welcoming, the complete opposite of Earth. The memorial was a work of art, a crystalline sculpture that caught the light and reflected it in rainbow patterns. Carved into its base were the names of every crew member who had served on the Valiant during that first rescue mission. At the dedication ceremony, Zilthara spoke to a large crowd of Valari civilians. "This memorial honors those who came when we called, even though we did not call for them. It honors those who risked everything for strangers. It reminds us that the universe,